I have you logged in.
Well, but I need. Oh, yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Secret Board of Education meeting to order for Monday, August the 15th of 2022. And the time that we're coming in is 6 p.m. First order of business is approval of agenda. You've all seen the agenda. We noted also that there was two additions that we had to put on there, 6.04 and 7.10. 6.04 is dealing with the presentation for parking, and the 7.10 is you have to change the school calendar. We can get to those later. Without anything else, recommended action is to approve the agenda with the additions presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the agenda with the additions presented.
Then moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the additions as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. So stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a moment of silence. Thank you. Four point oh one is approval of board minutes from July the 5th board meeting. All were present, so all can vote. Recommended action is to approve those minutes.
Chuck Benson, I make a motion to approve the minutes of 7/5/22 board meetings.
Marcus Ryder, second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the board minutes of 7/5/22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 4.02 is the minutes from the board meeting of July the 20th. This was a special meeting. Mrs. Hopkins and Mrs. Savage were not present, so everyone else can vote. Recommended action is to approve the minutes for 7/20/22 board meeting.
Marcus Ryder, move that we approve the meetings from the 7/20/22 board meeting.
Chuck Benson, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the July 20th, 22 board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Next set of minutes is the minutes for July 27th, which was also a special board meeting. All were present, so all can vote. Recommended actions to approve the minutes for 7/27/22 board meeting.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the minutes from the 7/27/22 board meeting.
Jeff Benson, a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the 7/27/22 board meeting. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Next item 5 is 5.01, public participation. Been told by Mrs. Anthony that there are no forms. So we will move on. Reports and presentations. 6.01 is superintendent communications. Dr. Nichols, I'll turn the floor over to you.
All right, good evening. It's amazing that it's August 15th. And today, the district welcome back. I think I counted about 45 new teachers in our cafeteria this morning. I know Mr. Cameron had a pretty full day of events for our new teachers. And this morning it was great. Our district teacher of the year, Briggs, gave a very nice address to the new staff. So it was really great to hear her words of encouragement, talking about support and just really what it means to be a teacher in Seaford. That was a great way to start the morning. So new teachers will be with us again tomorrow, doing some work. And then on Wednesday, all staff will be reporting. Then on August 24th, our pre-K kindergartners, our third graders, sixth graders, and ninth graders will attend school. And on August 25th, all of our students will be in attendance. Our district kickoff is this Friday. We'll start breakfast around 7:30 at the high school, and then our celebration kickoff event will begin at 9. Dr. DiGirolamo and myself were a part of a DPH and DOE Zoom call today. And the topic was not monkeypox, it was actually COVID. So we're expecting to see some guidance come out later the week about what it means for schools. And based on our conversation, it wasn't around anything that we haven't been doing from last year. There's no discussion about, let me start. If somebody were to test positive for COVID, it looks like there will still be some 5 days isolation. It looks like the state will be following the new guidelines that came out from the CDC around if you're a close contact, not coming to quarantine. So we expect that maybe later this week, the guidance to come out. So once we have that, we'll communicate that to the board, the district, our teachers union, and our parents. So everyone knows. But again, it's August 15th and our students are coming back next week. So the sooner we can get that guidance, the better. This Friday, besides the district kickoff, I'm going to be joining Penny Short from the hospital and the mayor just to do another video about some of the happenings in each of our areas. When we did this during COVID, it seemed to get a lot of views. So we want to make sure that the three groups are together, just talking about what's happening, and I look forward to that. And this Saturday, the district participated in the Afrin Festival that was held in the community. So I want to thank Mr. Cameron for setting up our table and our food and giving away some of our district swag. I saw Mr. Henry, Mr. Simmons there as well. And some of the cool conversations we had, some alumni came back. So they were really excited. They were asking us if we had t-shirts for sale. So I think we're going to work on that, aren't we? Yes, sir. And but they like taking the lunch boxes, the hand sanitizer, so it was a big hit. They really enjoyed that. So one of our goals is to really flood our market with Seaford gear, the discussion about the district. Because the more we see, I think that just keeps bringing pride in the community. And they're my updates.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nichols. Oh, one question. The kickoff on Friday is in the cafeteria, and then where's the general meeting?
The auditorium.
It will be.
It will be in the auditorium, and I'm glad you brought that up. Our auditorium looks great, and it's not even 100% finished yet. We're still waiting on some carpet, some bolts for some chairs,
Okay.
and but it's going to be held in there. And I think that even though it's not 100% finished, I think people will be very impressed with how the auditorium came out.
Okay. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. 6.02 is board communications. I just have a couple of things to mention to my colleagues here. Saturday, August the 13th, Saturday was the Delaware School Board Association picnic and annual meeting that was held at Dr. Marinucci's farm outside of Harrington. There was a good turnout and everyone enjoyed the food and sharing notes with each other about things that are going on with the schools. John gave a report, and I guess if I had to summarize his main point of the issue that he was discussing, he said that we need to be on the lookout in board elections, that it's going to become more and more politicized than it has been in the past. And I'm hoping that's not true, but I can also see that in the writing on the wall as I look too. The next Delaware School Board Association Board of Directors meeting is scheduled for September the 7th at 6:15 at Rome's Restaurant. And I would just add also that I attended the new teacher orientation today, and it was a good program, a good turnout, and good round of applicants and future teachers for us there. I'm glad to see all that.
I'm hoping our next district teacher of the year was in that crowd.
So. Also on Thursday, I joined Dr. Nicholas and Doug Henry on a tour of the facilities before the high school, Central Elementary, and the middle school to see some of the projects that they've been working on in the summer. And I was very pleased with what I saw there and gathered a lot of information about the district. Got a chance to go down in the tunnels underneath the high school and also on the road to the high school. Haven't been up there for a long while. I'm not telling anything. All right, that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything? All right, moving on. The next presentation is the AED policy discussion. That is about the Central Elementary plaque. And you have a PowerPoint and a notes on that. And Mr. Henry, you will lead us through a discussion.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
So, the central plaque dedication, we came down to basically I did a Word doc so you guys could see the writing because it was hard to see on the plaque itself. But that's one thing for approval is the Word doc. And then, we had the plaque setups. So basically, we went with 2 different setups and one being the picture of the building only. And thanks to Chandra, she got the 3 pictures here on the plaque. So I'll need approval and a decision on which one of those we want to move forward with. And then can go ahead and school. And then I marked the location of the plaque, which Chandra and I met on and kind of came up with the location. So if you enter the lobby, the media center door that's on your right hand side, it'd be right beside that. Okay. So I think that's pretty much there. Can just scroll through.
Can you go back to the plaque with the pictures, please?
Yeah.
I like the plaque with the picture, but the picture needs to be more centered. It looks like it's off.
So center picture.
Kim, am I correct? Do you see it?
Yeah, I do see it. I think that the issue is they want to capture the old part of Central.
Understood. Understood. That makes sense.
I mean, we'll see what we could do with it too. We may be able to slide them a little bit, you know what I mean? And still get and still get the building on both sides.
Yeah.
So we may be able to, I'll talk to Dina about that. She's pretty good with that stuff.
But I do
Then
think
that's 3 ones. So
That's true too.
I like the picture. Okay, I guess my thinking was to have a picture of the 3 children back when they
Right.
entered the building. Is what I would really like
Yeah, I think that would
I
be
tried
powerful.
to check through online, I couldn't find anything, I checked newspapers, but it seems like, I think I said once before, I think I've seen a picture of that, I don't know why that's telling me that, but anyhow,
Mhm.
that's my only thought about that.
No, I agree with you. If we had the younger pictures of themselves, I think that would be better. But it's great that they're all living, that we still
Oh, yeah.
can be able to.
Sure.
And we work with Chandra and multiple folks, state grants and all that, trying to consult with something else. We just couldn't get it. So that's when we were like, hey, let's move forward,
Mhm.
get in there present.
And neither one of the families said anything.
No, I mean, a lot of people were involved.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that just zooming out some,
Okay,
I think that maybe we're too close.
okay.
We got the feet and legs chopped off and. Just saying, that might help, I think that might help it out a little bit.
Okay. So it sounds like we're leaning towards the picture, is that,
Yeah,
I would, yeah.
and I can work with Dina on those other things.
that's the color of what the plaque is gonna be?
It's gonna look just like the plaque that we did for Mr. Sherman.
Okay,
Yeah, it'll be like the gold and the, you know what I mean? So the pictures really won't be a picture.
yeah,
Silhouette stuff,
right,
but detailed, very detailed.
okay,
You did that, was kind of like a cranberry, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
So they'll be like the bronze plaque.
okay.
I think when we saw the picture, examples for Sermon's plaque, I think it looked like that.
It's the same thing. It looks like a Milford plaque. Still effective.
Yeah. I don't hate them guys, you know, but yeah, it was good. It was good.
Did anyone have a chance to talk with Dara at all about this?
No, but I'm pretty sure she would want the picture. I mean, cause she was the one really pushing for it anyway.
And are we okay with the way everything's laid out on the plaque now? And the verbiage just used and something in it and,
I'm okay
okay.
Yeah,
with language, yeah.
I don't think we actually had an issue with the language. I think whatever it was corrected.
It was, but I think before Dara was after,
The cook
Corey.
name, and I went back and worked with Chandra trying to correct all that stuff. She told me the whole story about the family reunion, how the cooks and the cooks and the cooks all.
The cooks.
Wearing different shirts.
Yeah.
All right, so this is an action item later. Are we all okay to? We don't have to come back and look at that picture again when.
And like I said,
Don't have the next adjustment or anything.
everything that we've noted, I'll
We're
work
okay.
with Dina on making those corrections, trying to zoom out a little bit, you know, move,
Yeah.
try to send it to the
I
back.
think it could be sent in an email.
Okay,
Okay. But we can still have it vote tonight.
You
Yeah.
can vote pending the adjustment of the photo. But I like it.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Henry?
No,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
right.
Yeah.
All right, 6.04 is parking patterns. The one that was added, because of a council meeting that happened. Well, after we put out the agenda, and we needed to put this in here so we can get the information. So Mrs. Simmons and Mrs. Hastings.
And Mr. Henry's gonna probably.
Oh, Mr. Henry's going to go on your show? Okay.
I'm just.
Good evening. We gotta have some backup here. So, good evening. We
Good evening.
historically have always had issues in the main three areas of the three campus, central, high school, middle school with traffic concerns. And so we started last year talking about student safety, vehicle safety, and just the time that we're actually stopping traffic out on Stein Highway when we have dismissals and coming into school. And so this became a conversation that we started having last year. This spring, we had more conversations, and I am pleased to say, it probably not yet, but on the next slide, this has really been a group effort in this project that we've been talking about. Doug and I can attest that in the years we've been here, we've had a number of accidents where kids have been hit out on Sign Highway by vehicles. We've had a number of accidents with vehicles itself in the areas and surrounding areas. So this has been certainly a concern for us. And so what we did, Kim, if you could go to the next slide, is this group effort. We've been talking about what we have been doing really isn't working, and it hasn't been working very well for us. We've not been very successful with the way traffic is going with the three main campuses here in town. This has been a group project or group effort. We contacted Seaford PD, who came and met with us. We actually had the city of Seaford was at the meetings with us as well. And then as Doug and I kind of got into a few other projects, DelDOT was actually at the table with us. And they brought representation here talking about some of their projects that they've got going on. And then they actually looked at our plans and kind of blessed it, if you will, on what we were trying to do and trying to accomplish with trying to figure out how can we bring kids into school and get them home the safest, but also with vehicles and traffic and everything along with that. So a couple of things, as we started this spring, we've kind of worked more this summer. We actually have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We're going to be out there on the sidewalk and a little bit painting the curbs or helping with the curbs. So we've got a couple things planned that we're going to be doing to kind of get this project along. We know we've got some short-term things. That's what we're doing now to kind of fix things short-term. But we also know this is going to be a long-term situation. This is not something we're going to be able to solve overnight. We know there's going to be some growing pains. We understand that, but we're trying to figure out how can we make this better for all involved. We also took this same presentation, or very similar presentation down to the city council. Dr. Nicholas and Mr. Paul were there as well. And it's because there were some things we needed from the city to get some approval on that's beyond our scope and sequence. And so we did that as well. I just want to touch point though, DelDOT has a couple other projects in this vicinity. I call it the rectangle. So Virginia Avenue here, DelDOT has a project currently that they're working with the industrial park, which the industrial park, the new one that hasn't really actually come in yet. They're having conversations with the industrial park about the intersection here of Market Street and Virginia Avenue. Perhaps making it eventually a four-way stop here where it's currently just a two-way stop. That was presented actually at the city council meeting as well. The DelDOT is making them do something with this, like their first point of intersection to the new industrial park that's coming out there. DelDOT is also doing a survey on Virginia Avenue and Bridgeville Highway, which if you all have ever been in that intersection, ooh, you're gonna be sitting there for a while. So they know there's something got to be done with that intersection. They also are looking into Bridgeville Highway and Stein Highway, the Dunkin' Donuts intersection. And they know there's some conversations there about something's got to be done at that intersection. And so those are some things that they've got. And part of when DelDOT came involved in this with us was they have been doing a survey all year long. They put up some cameras on the city streets of Market Street and School Lane to address School Lane and Stein Highway intersection.
So Corey and I had met with them in the beginning of the school year, and basically asked DelDOT to basically survey the area. So they put up two cameras, one at the stoplight by the courthouse, and then one down by the church, by School Lane. And basically they survey everything for a year there, and then come back, like Kim said, with a recommendation of a stoplight there. And the biggest concern there was a pedestrian crossing, like where the kids were crossing without a crossing guard or anything like that. So basically, they thought about the little strobe lights, you know, like pedestrian strobe.
By the hospital.
By the hospital, how you got those, but they were like, that's not gonna do what we need to do here in this area. So they were like, we're gonna be forced into more of a stoplight situation where we can do the pedestrian crossing so the kids can cross safely across there.
And knowing that project, DelDOT is working on that. That's going to be completely funded by DelDOT, has nothing to do with us. They're now going to be looking at how much leeway they have, especially on the graveyard side over there, where they would have to put a pole in. The sidewalk already currently exists. They would then put a crosswalk in, but that's 2025. So that's one of those long-term projects that we were talking about, not going to happen overnight. But we know in our history of being here, having a light in between the two current lights is a big deal. If DelDOT says they're willing to put a light because traffic is so bad and there's concern. So that was one of the things when they came to the table, we were like, okay, we definitely need DelDOT sitting down with us as we make these changes and kind of make these plans.
The other good thing that they noted too is that it'll actually slow traffic down coming through there. You know what I mean? So they give 3 lights in a row to slow the pace of traffic down where you probably won't even get to 35 miles an hour. That's possible.
It's gonna back up traffic too, though.
It is, and we talked about that with them, it's going to back up traffic, but it's only going to be for that short period of time. And with some of the changes that we're doing, and eventually 2025, when we start thinking about things, we know that as we're making some changes, we're keeping that in mind, that, hey, there's going to be a light here eventually, that's our hope, right, with them, that we know that that timeframe hopefully will get shorter and shorter and shorter, that we're having to hold up traffic. They also did assure us that they would all be in sync, so it wouldn't be like you get to one light and then you backing up a second, they would all be kind of in sync going through there, so if you get called, it'll move along.
And they also noted that everything else tying in also. So even the light down by, the lights we talked about would be timed with those lights. So that way it's kind of following traffic going through as, so like you said, helps with congestion.
I hit something, I get hurt, sorry. So hopefully I didn't change the air conditioning for that. So next slide, thank you. So we started talking about what is it we can change on our school district. And so we've met with Ms. Hastings, we've actually had meetings now with Dr. Harrison and Shay. High school, we've met with Mr. Page as well. So some of the changes that we're going to be implementing starting this fall, which would be next week, right? The PM in Smithville at the middle school and high school. If you've ever seen, we have 2 waves at middle school, high school. There's the first wave and there's a second wave. And so one wave is here at the middle school, one wave is at the high school. The afternoon or the second wave in the afternoon, when they leave the high school, all of those buses are going to come down school lane and get in line with the current buses that are already sitting there. And so they're going to then go out what we call the pickle. And the pickle is where Mr. Parker is, where he's stopping traffic, holding the light. So all buses are going to be routed through that light intersection. When they come through the light, they're going to make a decision, are they going straight across to Glade? Are they going left towards McDonald's? Or are they going right towards the outer town? All buses going the same direction and traffic stopping for that period will then help us alleviate problems on school lane. It'll help us alleviate problems down here on Virginia because buses will all trying to getting out themselves in different areas where there isn't help to get them out. And so by routing them that way, we're hoping that this will kind of, yes, is it going to prolong traffic a little bit longer? Yes, a little bit. We know that the buses that are lined up at the middle for the first wave are their larger, it's the larger wave, if you will, of number of buses, the amount of buses. So the second wave coming down to them will only be about 6 or 7 buses coming in to join them. So as long as we keep that flow going and moving, they'll get out with the light and kind of go through that. Second thing that we're going to be doing is the parking lot here across the way will become the student parking lot, and it will change with the exits and entrance. So currently the way it stands now is you come in here towards the OH entrance and you kind of come in that way. There's a sign down there that actually says do not enter on the other end down by the ticket booth of the north end of the thing. We're going to switch that around. Dell Dot actually looked at that. City of Seaford has looked at that. The police department, everybody's looked at that. We're going to make the entrance down there by the ticket booth. Everybody will be going in that way and traffic will all flow out this way. We have buses that come to the OH entrance. And so in the mornings, if you've ever sat on a bus and had cars coming in at you this way, where it's very, very, very tight, it's very scary because you don't have, the buses can't move anywhere. They're up against the curb. They can't go anywhere. So if we alleviate that and have all the traffic going out the same direction, then that's going to help us move that traffic flow. So this will become the student parking lot here in the front area. What will then take place is in the morning, we've always had a little bit more congestion because this has been parent pick up and drop off here in this front loop area. We're going to be moving the pickup and the drop off to the back parking lot of the high school, which is actually where you come in for the basketball games in the winter, that entrance in the back by the cafeteria back there. We have it marked off. Doug has got our company coming in and redoing the pavement, putting arrows, signage, the whole 9 yards going to be taking place. You'll come in what is really Virginia Avenue, cut in that first loop right there, and you'll kind of come down that parking lot and loop around. You'll literally drop your kid off right there as they're all going to go in that back entrance. The buses will be in the parking lot over They're not even in the same parking lot, but they're over or across from what I call the trash cans or the dumpsters back there.
Mhm.
So all kids will then be coming in the back entrance of the high school for the mornings and in the afternoons, if you will. That will become also the one section of that parking lot back there, which is closest to the Boys and Girls Club and the police station. We are gonna have, Gigi, correct me if I'm wrong, how many are gonna be student athlete parking?
We have 55 spaces available for student athlete.
And they'll be on the end.
On that
On the
far
far
end.
end.
We did that so that in the evenings, especially when athletes come back in the evenings late at night, if they're having to park up here, they're then having to walk up around the school or through the school or up in the dark. That's just not cool. And then in the afternoons, if they're gonna check out on the bus or get on their bus earlier, they can go to their cars, get their belongings, get their things. Their vehicles are back there. And so we're gonna make part of that parking lot will become the student parking lot, as well as that will become the staff parking lot for the staff.
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, you can finish and then I ask.
I think I kind of went out of work, like the drop off location, I don't think it was, but I covered.
Except students that drive will come in the front door as
Yes,
students that drive on their own.
yes. So if you're junior or senior and you have a parking pass and you come in, you'll be coming in that front entrance. We may have a couple of our van service companies, we talked about that the other day. They will be coming in that second wing, which is really kind of like the preschool wing over here. But there'll be kind of a limited number of dropping off at that area as well, just because we don't want the vans to be sitting in the back of parent drop off and waiting.
Mhm.
So we're gonna kind of move that along with them here in this second parking lot. We just made that decision this past week about where to put them as well on that piece of it. Now, a couple of things. We know that this is gonna be hard. We also know that, Gigi has been working with, the schools. We have a couple staff who I think if you're 20 years or more, we're gonna have a few spots up here. So if you've been in the district 20 years or more and you historically have always been parking in this parking lot, we're not trying to upset anybody. So we're gonna make a few spots up here that if you have seniority, you get one of those spots. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to park. Where all the kids are parking, but that's just me personally. But we have available if staff want to do that as well. We also know that this is gonna be change, and change is sometimes hard. But we also know that with change, things get better. We met this past week. We're gonna be having extra staff out there. We're gonna be, PD is gonna be helping us enforce some of these areas and kind of helping us, with some of these jam ups if we get there. But we know that we've asked custodians, we've asked high school is gonna have some staff as well available.
And we have some of the like bifold signs, you know what I mean, like the signs that can move around, stuff like that we're gonna have available. Students that everything doesn't come in on time, we'll put poster boards
Yeah,
on.
we're gonna respond, we're gonna get there.
Cones to kind of redirect the traffic, you know what I mean, like out front here to tell them, hey, you need to go around back. And cones around back to kind of force them into one place entering the next. Just stuff like that is what we're gonna all have to work together on, is to train people.
We know that in about 2 or 3 weeks, this will be down pat. Parents will have it, teachers will have it, everybody will kind of know at that point. So the first 2 or 3 weeks of school anyway is kind of crazy anyway. So we just added one little level to it to make it hopefully eventually fix things up. I'm gonna let Gigi talk because I know one of the big questions you might have, how is this being communicated? I can tell you that I received last night as a parent, I received a call last night from Dr. Harrison already saying, here's what's happening, we're great, anxious to come and excited and the whole 9 yards, and there's all kinds of meetings, and parents drop off is now here, and she's explained all that in her little message that came out last night. So I know for my own sake, that did come out last night.
So we're looking at obviously starting the Blackboard calls, which I've already started. We're also doing the emails. We're going to post on Facebook with the help of Mr. Cameron and the district website and the high school website with actual pictures of where the parent drop off will now be, where student parking will be, information on how to buy parking permits as well. For students too, we're going to send Schoology messages with the same information that we're posting on the website and Facebook. And for staff, obviously, this is going to be a change too. For our staff, we're going So he's sending out an email explaining it and also giving presentation on our first day back.
So the last thing, the camera's kind of showing how to work those, we're too jiggy here. So the last thing is, this is where we kind of went to city council because there's some changes that are gonna be taking place for the city streets. Over on School Lane, I'm going to get some signage on School Lane, on the east side of the roadway, which is more toward where the residents are on that side of School Lane over there. Is gonna be no parking from 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. And that's just simply because if you've ever been on that side of the street in the mornings or in the afternoons, it's very, very tight and very, very congested over there. On the west side of the roadway, which is literally the school side, so imagine the practice football field side coming down the middle school in that area is going to be what we consider a loading or unloading zone, or, you know, kind of like a drop zone. It's not gonna be, no parking in theory. You're not gonna be able to pull your car up there and park, let your kid out and wait for 5 minutes for him to get his backpack and all of those things out. It's gonna literally be kiss and go kind of deal. Drop them off and go kind of piece. Again, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 on that side of the road. On this side of the road, what we're kind of asking for, and this is kind of, we've been to the city, we've been everywhere with this. Actually, Dr. Nicholas walked out with us as well. There currently are yellow pieces on the curbs now. Some of them you can't see, some of them grass is over it. And so what we're asking for is the city to go back out, repaint those bright yellow like they should be, and repaint them the 25 feet, if you will, from the beginning of the curve or the intersection, 25 feet in all the intersections. So depending on whether it's the piece here, right here at Central, where you go into the parking, or if it's the intersection here, and they're kind of repainting those and touching those up. We got an email today, we're gonna be going out 3 o'clock on Wednesday, with not only the city of Seaford, but we're going out with the Seaford PD who will be out there, and we're gonna have the little, there you go, that little measuring wheel. And we're gonna go out there and we've got spray paint and we're gonna show them where we actually are with them as far as painting it ourselves with, we're not painting it, but we're gonna kind of get them started with that. And then the last thing is there's one additional piece, which is right there by the main area of the football field, where we've asked them to repaint that, but also to extend it to a 30 feet area.
Just right there by the concessions.
Yeah.
It's kind of where the ambulances and things go in that back area there. Just because if you are trying to come out of the middle school in the middle of the football game, or at the end of the football game, it's very, very congested there. And if a ambulance was trying to coming through or fire department, it's very, very tight. So 5 extra feet actually makes a big difference. And so that one area will be repainted, but it also will be extended to a 30-foot area. Last one. Any questions, concerns, comments?
I have a couple questions, but Jeff, you have a question?
Okay.
So with the drop off in the morning, what does that look like as far as students that are, if they're 5 or 10 minutes late? Are you gonna have someone in the back, or they have to go through the back, through the front, and then sign in? What does that look like?
So students are going to be able to be dropped off at any time up until 7:40. 7:40 is technically you're late, so high school, according to the high school's schedule, 7:45. At that point, they will be then allowed to come around, because at that point, students are gonna have to sign in anyway, they're gonna have to come into the office, they're gonna have to get the pass. So at that point, when they literally kind of shut that back door or shut that back entrance down, the cones and everything will come up at that point in the back, and then parents will then know, you know, 7:50, 7:55, they can come on around this way and come in, drop their kid off there, sign them in at that point.
Basically, what we would do is pull that tripod sign up I talked about. We'll take the 4 or 5 cones that are across there, pull those up, stack them off to the side, and then just kind of train parents to come around and use the front.
So,
That door, I'm sorry, that door will be shut and locked, so they won't be able to get into that door.
okay, and so throughout the day, pick up, drop off, it's still front
Yes.
door? Okay,
Now, drop off, or pick up in the afternoon, so 2:15, and sometimes, for some folks, it's actually 1:45, depending on what it. We're gonna, again, the first couple of weeks, we're gonna be out here, we're gonna try to make everybody and force everybody to go back there. So kids are also gonna be told that if they're like walking to meet their parent, they're gonna need to go out that back door and wait for their parent, and that loop out there coming around the back there to go out that way.
yeah, I'm just talking about, like, if you're picking up your child or for appointments, or whatever the case may be.
Main entrance area.
Early dismissals, plates, still probably.
Gotcha.
So I have a couple questions. So as you were mentioning all the new drop off and picks up and all that. What is the difference in the amount of access points with this new design than previous? Or has the amount of access to the school is unchanged? So you're saying these people will come in the front, a group will come in by the J's where the little J's are. This group's gonna come in the back. So I'm just trying to figure out, do we have more access points to get inside the school with this new design versus what it was last year?
We have less.
Less,
We
okay.
have less. We have less area. We're trying to funnel as most of the kids coming in the back entrance of possible. Now, again, except for your kids coming in late, there's a exception.
And you're parking, you're driving.
And you're parking here. The OH students and the autism students that come anyway, they're coming in with teachers and staff, so that is completely separate thing. Students won't be able to just walk in there with them as well. They don't do that now. So for them, it will be whether you get dropped off or you ride a bus, it'll be the back end. Otherwise, it will be the front end, and again, unless you're on a van, and that's gonna be the only thing, and we kind of already know when those vans are gonna show up. So we know that we've got coverage there to let those students in as well.
And to clarify, they aren't coming in the little J's entrance. They're coming in the bus end.
So there's only two, there's the front entrance, which would be for the students that are driving, and then the rear, all the drop offs and stuff
And
like
the
that.
bus end.
Okay, I've heard the mention of the little J's and I'm like,
Sorry,
yeah,
they're gonna drive in, I don't know where, that means wherever it is over here.
We can talk about that, and we, but they're not coming in that door.
Right.
yeah, Dr. D was a little concerned. She had to reevaluate some.
I know,
things.
right. Everybody, good morning.
We're looking at each other like. All right, and so that's what I do. And I'm really struggling with the rationale for changing the direction or the flow of traffic. Where the students will now park, we're gonna have them come essentially to the left instead of going to the right.
So the main reason for that is if you think about a bus when they're dropping off,
Uh-huh,
the bus has to drop off on that side.
Understood.
So trying to keep everybody headed in the same direction, if you think about that flow of traffic. So we're trying to keep all the flow of traffic going the same way. We couldn't turn the buses around. Because they'd be dropping off on the wrong side.
So- okay, so that makes sense. Thank you for that clarification. And so will there be a stop sign placed there? Okay,
There will be a stop sign, there will be a
Do
do
not
not
enter.
enter sign. In the morning, the first couple of weeks, we're actually gonna have cones out so they can't go in that way. We're gonna have a staff member or two or three or however many it is so that this is gonna be changed, especially for your students. The good thing is, obviously, your newer students who are learning to drive, this will be their first time doing this, and so they'll just kind of fall in with it.
And we're trying to avoid, if anybody remembers the accident at the end of the season, or last year at the season.
Oh.
At the end of last year, where the students came out of two exits there basically, and then collided down at the stadium exit. So we're trying to get all traffic flows going in one direction, which I think is safer.
yeah, and that sounds good. I just wanted to make sure as we change things that still we make sure that we have the safety nets with stop signs being replaced and all those things. So I'm good with that.
No, and we actually have signage coming, and we went out and looked at it, there's already poles there, so we don't have to on our property, at least we don't have to go adding any more digging or anything, there's already poles there, we just need to get the signage moved as well. And then there will be cones just for the first couple of weeks. But I know that in the afternoon, one of the things we asked the high school as well, in the afternoons, they will be putting cones up where it is literally the entrance, so that students don't try to come out there. And then we have the same situation that we had, where they're coming out both ways, and then we've got a bigger mess.
We're gonna try to man that also. Along with the cone. Anywhere we cone up or area.
Is it going to be perfect the first couple weeks? No. Is it going to be the end all be all? Who knows? No, but we don't know that. And so certainly we will then come back to the drawing board and make decisions as we see things happening, as the police are gonna be involved with this, checking things out and enforcing things. You know, the DelDOT will be coming back with us as well, meeting with us. This is just the beginning of this conversation, but it's something that we wanted to try to put some things in place to kind of start the school year with some new ideas and some new ways of trying to make an improvement in student safety and traffic safety.
I'll be honest, Kim and I have been here for a while, and kudos to Dr. Michelson and yourselves, because I think the relationship between the city and us now, I've never seen it work like this. I mean, it's everybody's headed in one direction, trying to look out for the safety of kids and all that stuff, and it's good to see, because we
Yeah.
haven't had that in the past.
I don't think I've ever been at a meeting where all four of us sat down at the table, at least for this magnitude, and kind of all had the same ideas about how to fix this and make it better. So it was nice, and again, that's going to continue, that's our plan.
Good, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You're changing the direction of getting into this parking lot here. The entrance is over there by the ticket at the end of the football field. They're coming out that roadway where the buses are, and then they're gonna turn and come out to Market Street. My question is, I can't remember without walking up there to look. At this stop sign, when you come out, whether you're coming from the circle or from the parking lot, are there lines on the road there, the street, to leave a space for people that are gonna be coming into that circle?
You're talking about marking out the 25 feet so you can see.
No.
No,
I'm talking about on the actual roadway.
Yeah,
Men should be coming in.
I don't want two sets of cars coming out of that.
but it won't be two sets of cars, and I think what he's talking about, we did discuss this, because we talked about actually this past week. So let's just say at 7:30, we put the cones across there and we're saying that you can't go in that way, which they shouldn't be going in that way. But what if I as a parent need to get in to give meds to the nurse? I'm not dropping off anybody, I need to see the nurse. So we're going to have someone man that area, so we can move those cones, let that car go in and go around the loop, put those cones back so that cars aren't going in there. And the same thing on the flip end of that, we're gonna be manning that on the afternoon as well.
So if you think
So
about
when
that,
they're leaving the parking lot in the afternoon, they can come out to the entrance there, right here where
One
the
car,
road is for Central Elementary.
Right.
Is that gonna be two cars,
No.
one be able to turn left and one turn right?
we're gonna use people, basically staffing cones to make that happen, to one
It'll
coming
be
out.
one way
not
coming out.
two,
So
not
there's
two
still
cars.
room for a car to come in there
Yes.
if they wanna get to the high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, and then we're gonna man, so if you think about the cones are actually gonna go from out by the road and then move in as everything starts to occur in there, you know, like this missile starts to happen. We'll move those cones in closer to the loop there, I call it the loop. So we'll move them in closer and we'll man those cones. So if somebody comes up and drops meds off of their kids, they'll come up to those cones, we'll move those cones, we'll stop traffic, come in, allow them through, and then allow traffic to continue.
but there will not be two sets of cars coming out at the same time. That will just be more confusion. So we're gonna have one car. When you get there, you're gonna either go left or right. At that point, when you make that decision, there really isn't going to be anybody coming from the, unless it's just main traffic coming through. There shouldn't be any more students coming from any other way other than they may have a little backlog getting out of the parking lot, but they're not gonna be able to get out any other way.
But if there's not a line on that street,
The driveway part.
yeah.
I mean, I can look
I
at.
know student drivers, they're gonna go over,
I can, so when we get the parking lot line, I can have them add an entrance and exit arrow on each side. just to kinda-
that's, I guess that was my concern.
It's a good, yeah, good concern, absolutely.
Okay. I know you guys have it all covered, I'm just.
Well, I don't know about that.
The orange does still leave a little bit early, right? A little bit earlier than the rest of the buses,
They-
so that shouldn't be here.
There, and I believe those buses should not be in, kids are coming in or kids are leaving traditionally. And there may be one, if there's a holdup of a kid coming late to the bus, but it would be one bus or at that point. But yes, you are absolutely correct on that.
Gotcha.
They leave earlier and come in a little bit early. So they should be out of the way. And if anybody wants to, put on a yellow vest to come out the first couple of weeks, so.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Simmons. Thanks for that. Great presentation. You guys did a great job at City Council. Thank you, sir.
I'm the way.
All right, moving on. The next presentation is Fred School Based Health Center, and she's already there in front. You have the show.
Good evening. So I just wanted to kind of highlight where we are right now with
the development of the Fred School-Based Health Center. Planning is underway on a variety of different fronts. Last week, a combined press release came out from Nemours and Seaford School District. It was also shared with the Fred staff so that they were aware of what would be coming in early 2023 to their school. In terms of financial information, we're working with them right now to gain access to our $125,000 one-time money that we're getting from DHSS through Nemours. We've also identified an additional $240,000 to assist in the renovations of the room. In terms of renovations and timing, we have hired an architect. We are working right now on the development of the RFP. Our goal is that we would bring to the October 17th board meeting the approval of the vendor so that then we would be able to enter into a contract. We've already had some preliminary conversations, and just given some of the supply chain issues, we may not be able to start January 1st in the actual school-based health center space within Fred. Specifically, one of the items we need is an HVAC unit, and that is something that has been delayed in other projects. So Nemours, Fred, and a team of us have worked, and what we are thinking is that we will be able to start and provide services in early January, but we may start out utilizing the reflection room and the nurses suite to provide those services until mid-January, mid-February, we have the room fully set up and furnished. We are also going to be participating in some hiring of the staff. They will be Nemours staff, they will not be Seaford School District, but we will be represented on the interview panels. We will be hiring for a nurse practitioner and a pediatric psychologist. Nemours has already received interest from some local NPs saying that they are heard about this and are interested in applying when the application is posted. So it's very exciting news. We have a very strong team of people working to make this a success. And we have another kind of bigger group meeting in mid-September just to keep everything flowing.
Any questions?
No.
Might as well stay there because it's the next one.
Yep.
KFR, community use of school facilities.
So this regulation was last updated in October of 2018. What this does is we are requesting that the required insurance levels are increased to comply with our required level of insurance by our insurance provider. The other part we're doing here later on in the regulation is that we're updating. It references computer labs, and right now we have technology in every single classroom that's a little bit outdated. And we're also removing the security deposit language.
Any questions?
Let me just one quick question. On the first page, the letter F, is that there by error or does products belong there?
So, yeah, I have issues with the formatting there. What can happen when we get rid of the red line is that the products will come up to F, but then I was having issues with the text.
So
So
that,
I promise it will work out correctly, and I'm sure Ms. Anthony will help me with that.
yeah, okay, I was just like, what are they trying to slide in there?
I'm trying to get that out there, but yes, we need to just maybe delete a space or so. It will be there before it's posted.
Dr. D, stop it.
Any other questions? All right, might as well move on to 6.07, the DFD, regulation gate receipts and emission.
So this was last updated May of 2002. It removes language referencing the courtesy pass. We no longer have that. However, we are adding in language that allows for current employees and retired Seaford School District employees to attend home games for free. It also moves the athletic ticket price from the June meeting to the July meeting.
Okay,
I ain't see no language about retired board members though.
I'm sure if you
What's going on?
So Megan, is athletics,
yeah, there's a strike through June and it would be July.
thank you.
You know, I'm gonna be there, Blue Jay down.
I cannot.
Anything else? All right. 6.08 is JQ-R student fees, fines and charges.
So this was last updated in May of 1996. This was just 2 years ago. I worked with the high school as well as the middle school in terms of switching up the language a little bit. But what we did in the past year is we worked through the old school student obligations. There were student obligations from over 20-year-old students who graduated from here.
Wow.
And some of them were for very minimal items, a $5 lock, an agenda. So we went through that list. We also reached out and looked at what some other districts were actually using in terms of their fees and fines and their processes and all that. And what we did was we really updated it. The items that have a larger monetary value, such as Chromebooks, athletic uniforms, band instruments, if there's property damage or potentially a textbook, if applicable, if we're using a textbook. Those were the items that we really want to focus on. You know, a library book from 3rd grade and you're a senior is not necessarily something that we want to hold up for graduation attendance. So we went through that. We also made sure we updated, so charges should be going into eSchool. I'm not sure if eSchool existed in 1996. We also said that the debts need to be resolved at each school level, because when I met with Dr. Horsey last year, one of the things that she felt very strongly about is there may have been a charge somewhere in the student's career, but they get to senior year of the high school, and then it's her responsibility or the high school's responsibility to kind of, you know, reach out to the student, to the parent and all that. It should be handled on an annual basis at the school that they're actually at, or especially by the time they graduate and matriculate from the middle school to the high school, the elementary school to the middle school. The other item we wanted to add in here was that we wanted to recognize that some of our students may not have the means to pay for maybe $100 fine or fee. So what we've incorporated into this document is that the principal, in conjunction with the principal, a student or family may work to kind of work off their debt or their student obligation through an in-service school project or some sort of work that would be approved by the principal. So those were the changes that have been made.
How high have you seen the fees for the students?
Well, I mean, some of them can be upwards of 2 to 3. I mean, if you completely lose or break a Chromebook, what's that, for $200 to $300?
Understood.
Some of our uniforms, I would have to say, uniforms and band instruments are probably more expensive than Chromebooks. And the part too is that we want to allow, you know, if it is a book, if it is a Harry Potter, some sort of book, you could bring in a replacement item. However, with a Seaford cheerleading uniform, you can't bring in a Milford cheerleading uniform. You know, some items you may be able to replace and it is the replacement value, but there are items that based upon the branding or whatever, we would have to have the actual repayment. So uniforms, if an entire uniform were to go, that could possibly be the biggest. Because some of the uniforms you're talking, I mean, if you're using a helmet and everything, you're talking maybe $500 to $700. I hate to even guess.
Yeah.
Because the helmets are very expensive.
What's here, you know, I mean, we talk about like working off like, you know, a Chromebook or something like that. What if like there is like, say, hey, like after there was a fire or something like that, so I lose the entire their football equipment. You know, what do we have in place to make sure that that student's not on the hook for that? When it's something, you know, instead of be their fault, like they didn't lose it, but you know, it's still an obligation.
Right. I think that would be a case where they would work with the principal or the administrator and there would be a write-off. I mean, these are really cases. First of all, it has to go into eSchool, and there's times that in the past it hasn't been used and it's kind of been either not used at all or kind of left to the school's purview.
But I think we would just work with the student and obviously that's not something that they were responsible for. Now, if like the dog chews your entire football uniform, that might be a different story, but if there's some sort of, tragic event, we would definitely work with them and write it off and make sure that the items are replaced.
And we had instances where individuals literally, they wasn't able to graduate because of the debts.
You're able to graduate because we've had 20 years of them. I think part of it is the question is whether or not if you owe money, you're not supposed to be participating in after-school activities, which may be dances, proms, athletics, drama, or anything like that. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to, not create those barriers. Part of it is that during COVID, I think school obligations may have kind of gotten put on the side. This was obviously not a priority. But now that we're back to traditional schooling and all that, we want to make sure that we actually now have a process in place that we're going to follow up on a regular basis with the student and the family. Because if I owe money, I should know that I owe money and not able to attend. Part of it is the communication, and that responsibility falls to the school, but the schools had a lot of other things going on.
Questions?
I just have one quick question. So I know you were talking about the principals of the school, and I totally agree with you. If something happened that Blaze, it should not fall into the high, to the high school. So being that the principals each will be responsible, is there a district oversight person? Would that fall back on you to have like a report to know what's going on?
Yes. So as part of this, and part of the reason that we did work to write off some of our old debt, we as a district, as part of our gap package, have to provide any outstanding obligations. And if it gets to a certain threshold, that's when additional notifications and communications happen. So we are aware, and we work with Mary Ann to get a report out of the system. And so it is something that I think are going to put a greater focus on moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. 6.09 is the next presentation, key priorities review. That would be Dr. D and Dr. Thanks. Okay.
You're ready to go. I have a bulleted list. So in Dr. Bell's departure, I briefly took over the responsibilities of the Director of Student Services. It's not real great. There's no, you don't have that now. No. But Dr. Bell was working on goal number, the key priority of developing a coordinated behavioral health delivery model to support the social and emotional well-being of students. If you recall, that was the first goal about providing a safe, positive, and supportive learning environment. So Dr. Bell asked me to share 6 highlights from the work towards that goal. The first one was Take Care Delaware, and this was the coordination with the Seaford Police Department to identify students who were exposed to a traumatic experience that required the law enforcement intervention. And it was just a way of communicating with the schools so that we knew potentially what students had police contact, what families did, so that we could support those students upon their return to school. The second bullet was about our student success teams, and this was wrapped into MTSS. If you remember, RTI, response to intervention, became multi-tiered systems of support, and the student success teams were the groups that were meeting at the individual schools to talk about student supports, whether it was academic, social, emotional, behavioral. There was also a language component with MTSS. And Dr. Bell was proud to establish a process at our secondary schools that provided that plan of action for those academic, behavioral, and attendance supports through the student success team. We also developed provider agreements with three specific providers: Milestones Consultants, First State Behavioral Health, and Children and Families First. And what this did was allow the mental health counselors to come into our schools to meet with students. There was no contract per se with the district. It wasn't at a cost to us. It just provided access to students and removed some of those barriers like transportation, scheduling. The providers could bill directly through Medicare, Medicaid, and it didn't have to, there was no delay or barriers to service. There's a student behavior committee that was established to provide a coordinated approach to student behavior. Met once prior to the end of the 21 to 22 school year. And this is something that Dr. Bell has specifically asked that I work with Mr. Zoll and kind of continuing. We really want to make sure that those supports are in place. The framework is there, and now we're going to see it through. Dr. Bell and I also worked together on the TAC2 training, which is our aggression control. It's all about communication and just trying to prevent problems before they arise. But then if a problem does come up, it also is the method for which we do student restraints. Sorry, I can't think of that word. And it stands for Therapeutic Aggression Control Technique 2. So we trained 8 folks throughout the district, then they go back to their schools. It's a train the trainer model, and then they make sure that school staff is appropriately trained. I always tease Dr. Bell because every summer he would come over when we're working on the consolidated and he'd say, do you have money for us to do the TAC2 training? Because my office has a little more finances attached to the student services. The other program that Dr. Bell established and tied right into this goal was the RISE program, and that stands for Reshaping Individual Student Experiences. If you recall, this was an alternative to out-of-school suspensions that was ultimately housed at the high school and was able to serve students at the middle school as well. And it provided an intervention for students who are facing longer term suspensions so that they could stay in school. There was embedded counseling into that. There were options for online learning, really tailored to the needs of those students. And again, Mr. Zoll and I sat at the end of last week and talked about diving back into the data from that program to see how our program participants in RISE did. Were they able to integrate back into classrooms? And where do we have possibilities for improvement? So that in a nutshell is our goal number 1. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now it's my turn. So I have 2 key priorities that my office was working on this past year. And the first one was about implementing high quality professional learning aligned to diverse academic needs of our students. And this is really at the heart of everything we do from the Office of Instruction, because we really focus on creating cycles of learning for everyone, students, teachers, administrators. And so you can see from the bulleted list of items, we had our partnership with UVA provided a lot of professional learning for our administrators and teams that have really benefited from the system level transformation that we're working on for our middle school and high school. But with University of Delaware, we really focused on math and literacy, K to 12. And so we did cycles of planning, collaborative planning, real-time coaching, and then debrief sessions with our teachers in both math and ELA. PNTP has been helping us with the professional learning plan for high school, literacy. I wrote 3 reimagining professional learning grants to support reading and math professional learning, because all of these come with a price tag. And so there were 3 grants that I wrote. I wrote them again for this current year. And I was awarded them. I wrote another grant, the Delaware Professional Development Incentive Grant, that really supported our middle school literacy. And through that, we were able to get not only the professional learning, but we also got a lot of our materials through that grant, which was really great. I worked with a data-driven instruction design team, because one of the things after the pandemic, when we were really in survival mode during the pandemic, we needed to come back as a team and get back to what are the practices that we know really work with data-driven instruction. So I pulled together a team of the most influential and those people who could be change agents in their school, so that we, read together and made a plan of how to reinvigorate the use of data-based instructional decision-making in all of the schools. And that was coupled with in-service days that had the primary focus of everyone in the school is going to be looking at data, and we're going to be talking about kids and making decisions and making action plans. And that team helped plan those days, and we're continuing with that this year. I also led a Bookworms leadership cohort, and this was with our K-8 principals, in which we did a cycle of professional learning for the principals. Then we walked through the school with, looking for a specific target. And then we debriefed afterwards, and that was really helpful, because it helped to see the coherence across our elementary and middle school, and how that vertical alignment of the curriculum and the collaboration was really good for the principals. And then we also did cycles of instructional walkthroughs and feedback, ourselves. So that was the first goal. The second goal was to empower students with the knowledge, resources, structures, and supports to achieve college and workforce readiness. And this is really, I wanted to be really thoughtful about how are we supporting their secondary schools in particular with that college and career readiness that is really necessary. And so, we aligned the curriculum and high quality instructional materials for our middle school and high school. And so that really was going after that, making sure that students have access and equity to really strong, rigorous, standards aligned curricula. We also looked to increase opportunities for dual enrollment and our partnerships with universities. So, looking at the new opportunities that we're able to see through Del Tech, as well as University of Delaware, and see what we're able to offer and increase our courses. We also expanded our AP courses. We invited representatives to college admissions advisors. We hosted a college and career night. We strengthened our CTE pathways by increasing the certifications that students are able to obtain. So that, and our goal is to have every CTE course and pathway to lead towards a certification of some kind, so that our students are leading with the skills that they need to be career ready. And we really worked on work-based learning opportunities. And we also strengthened our partnership with the JDG, Jobs for Delaware Graduates program, and we we expanded that into the middle school. So they now have a JDG program at our middle school. Any questions about the key priorities?
I have those in mind.
Great. So I also wanted to give a picture of our preliminary smarter balance data because that's really aligned. That's the key priority of the Office of Instruction is to have student achievement. And so I wanted to share this preliminary data that was just released by the state earlier this month. And as you can see, the navy is Seaford and the yellow is the state. And in comparison to the state, we did okay. You know, this is a good baseline for Seaford and the state after the pandemic. And that's the message you'll probably hear from everyone across Delaware, how this is, how we are to the road to recovery after the pandemic. I would also mention that for our ELA scores, there were only 3 districts in Delaware that did better than we did. Or K to 8, so our K to 8, or 3 to 8 average is 42%, sorry about that, I said K to 8, 3 to 8. Is 42%, and there were only 3 districts in Delaware that did better than us. That was Cape, Appo, and Dominion River. And we were tied at 42% with Red Clay. Yeah, so we were 4th in the state for 3 to 8 average.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there any reason that you know of, I'm just not here, why 6th grade is like that low?
You know, that's something that we're always trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And I'll say that that's a trend in every district across Delaware. When you look at all of their, there's always a dip in that 6th grade. And I don't know if it's something about, you know, there's something about that transition from 5th to 6th grade that we just haven't figured out yet. And even before the pandemic, we saw that drop. And it's just a common trend.
Maybe one thing, they're just entering the middle school, so it's changed from.
Right.
elementary to-
I understand. Yeah, but Mr. Tall, they have an increase in 3rd and they transition from 2nd, which is a different school than 3rd.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we haven't been able to figure out. And so we have tried a few different strategies of maybe having more collaboration between our 5th grade teachers and our 6th grade teachers. And really trying to see if there's a way to bridge that somehow. And it's an area that we need to continue working.
So is the format of the test different going from 5th to 6th?
No. No, it's the same format, to be honest. They have a computer adaptive portion of the test, along with a performance task, which is a writing task.
But does it give you I guess a comp score? Does it give you a score, a breakdown of what they're nearing passing in, what they aren't?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I think that might be a good start for like a little task force of some sort to figure out where this gap is. I mean, I understand that other schools workforce compared to others and, you know, but to Mr. Tall's point, I mean, they were rocking and rolling. These are the same students who were rocking and rolling. They've transitioned from a different school before. They get to 6th grade and all of a sudden, there's an issue because what I was going to suggest is maybe if they have like a demo or some kind of preparation for the test, but if the format hasn't changed.
Yep, and we do that, and we're gonna continue to do that. That's part of what the data design team really looks at. So we look at the test blueprint at each of the levels. We look at the item types to make sure that our students have opportunity, and we just need to keep doing, and really get down to individual students and try to target instruction for all of that.
And so, and then Marcus, I'll let you have it. So we have a test plan.
Yeah.
So we have a blueprint. Does our curriculum align to match those key points?
Yes.
Then I go back to probably a task force to figure out, looking at those near passing areas, to figure out how do we fix or bridge that gap in our curriculum. Marcus, what was your question?
Have we looked at so like if we're just say, once you get to 6th grade, obviously there become other options. And if we're losing like the top 10% of that class, how much of a factor is that into this? And with the students that are remaining, are those numbers then the same? Is that why there's that big drop off?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to investigate.
It's a good question.
So then you're thinking target those students prior to 6?
I think it's retaining them. I think it's more so a retention issue. If we can keep those kids, I think our numbers are gonna stay up, testing wise. So I'd be curious to see like, if the 6th graders that remain from 5th grade, per se, if, we look at those numbers and look at those numbers back and take out those kids that we've lost, how did those numbers look?
Right.
And I think that's gonna give us a much more accurate picture.
Potentially, I trust you on that, yet that still leaves, when we talk about achievement gaps,
Absolutely.
then even if we had a retention response and we were able to keep people that did leave, now I'm to the point where we're looking at that gap, these students need something that they're not getting. So I think identifying them before they get to the middle school and seeing what do you need help with. Because whether anyone stays or leaves, those students, it's showing that they need us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else? You have the math work, I guess.
We do.
Yeah, we have math.
We have math, and here's our math results. And again, this is showing that Seaford did the Navy and the yellow is the state average. And again, we were 3rd in the state for our average 3 to 8. Cape and Apple were the only 2 school districts that did better than us for all grades, 3 to 8.
So the average was higher.
Yeah, we were higher than the state average. Yeah, we were at 33% for 3 to 8. And the state was at 30.
Bars there.
Right, so you have a similar phenomenon happening with that transition year between 5th to 6th grade. And I think that it's a complex problem that we need to investigate through multiple means, because I think that there's multiple factors that impact that, including what Mr. Wright, Dr. Wright, okay, commented on, which we're trying to kind of advance our college and career readiness level so that we're attracting students to stay with Seaford, but we're also really looking at our curricula, which is why we're doing all of this professional learning for our high quality curricular materials that we've really focused on. And so that we're supporting our teachers, but then we're also looking at individual students and their data with our DDI designs and our focus on data-driven instruction.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Allen. And Dr. D, thank you for your presentation also. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Ready to move on to the agenda action items. And, first one, first one, 7.01 is nutrition services meal prices. We had the student prices at the last board meeting, and I believe that these prices deal with the staff and the adult prices.
Correct.
Mrs. Kirby, do you have
There
something
was,
to add to that?
I just wanted to talk about the adult lunch. There's 75 cents increase this year. That adult lunch price is a formula with our reimbursement rate, which when our reimbursement rate goes up, which is what the trend has been since COVID. So for every free meal, and we are CEP, we get reimbursed $4.43. And then we have to add on to that too, 30 cents because they consider USDA commodity food, donated foods. So we don't have much wiggle room with adult meals. But there's different ways that when I send this out to the buildings and the principals, that they can get, because there's going to be some pushback. And I understand that, that they can get a full meal in a different way that will not add up to $4.75. And I wanted to keep that extra student entree and our side orders relatively inexpensive. So some of the things, like the less nutritionally valued foods, are a little bit higher than we've seen in the past. But in that respect, the elementary schools, we will not be providing, there will not be snacks available for purchase again this year. So middle school and high school will be able to get any of our items. And the USDA is very clear that for federal reimbursement of our student meal program cannot support a la carte meals. So they have a very strict formula that we have to go by, that we do not support. So we, at no point are we supporting our a la carte meals from our federal reimbursement.
Anybody have any questions on prices? This is an action item. Recommended action is to approve the nutrition services meal prices as presented.
Just Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the nutrition service meal prices as presented.
Jeff Johnson, a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the nutrition services meal prices as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. School choice. You have the agenda in your papers. There are 5 school choices on the agenda. 6 first, excuse me. Push this. Thank you so much. 6 school choices on the agenda. We just had updates right before this meeting. Okay. So recommended action is to approve the school choice applications, 2022-23-26 through 2022-23-31.
Is Jeff Benson, I make a motion that we approve school choice applications 2022-23-26 through 2022-23-31.
This is Marcus Wright, I second.
It's been moved and second to approve the school choice applications as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.03 is field trips. There are none to consider. So moving on to 7.04 is facilities request. The agenda, I believe you will find two applications. One is for the Sussex Tech Adult Division Family Literacy Program that will be using our facilities on a number of dates. And also the second one is the event with Extreme Dance Studio. Both of these have been with our district before. So recommended action is to approve those. Does anyone have any questions or discussion? If not, recommended action is to approve the facilities request agenda as presented.
This is Marcus Wright. I move that we approve the facility request agenda as presented.
Tim Hopkins, our second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the facilities request agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.05 is the AED policy that is regarding to the Central Elementary plaque that we had a discussion about. Recommended action is to approve the signage for that plaque. And if you want to include which one, please do that and then I'll repeat it.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the signage for Central Elementary pending photo adjustment of the photo with the Central 3 in it.
So Jeff Benson, I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Question, Mr. Henry, do we have to include in that motion anything about the signage or is that covered in the, okay, in the plaque itself?
That's covered, okay.
Okay, that's fine. I thought it was, but I just want to make sure. All right, it's been motion is to approve the signage of Central Elementary plaque, pending the adjustments in the picture. We want to go with the one with the picture on it and the wordage there. And I lost my train of thought. Is that all I need to say there? All in favor of that motion?
All right.
A long days. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Sorry about that. Senior lapse of time.
Thank you. You did good.
7.06 is certificate of necessity. I will turn that over to Henry and just run it if you need to. Is that okay? All right. You might even see this. Say a little bit about it before we get the motion.
Guys, the only thing I don't think we're new to this, reading markets. So every year, Mark, we kind of put in, our application for the certificate of necessity. Just to make the state aware of where we are as a district after assessment that we have done. Let them know what our needs are. A perfect example of that is they're doing Patricia Hall went around for ADA assessment. And the good thing in Seaford, I felt pretty proud when I said, hey, we can discontinue our assessment. We've given it to you for 4 years now. No need to come here and waste your time. We have what we need. You know, on that. So that's a good feeling that we're in that good spot with that. The other thing that we use the assessment for is, and I just wanted to note that all that information was sent to you guys, but next year, there's going to be some things coming off because of the ESSER funding. HVAC projects that will be completed over the next year will come off of some of that assessment. It's just a small portion, but hey, still it's a step in the right direction, right? We're getting stuff off of there. LED upgrades will be coming off of those assessments that are noted on there now. And then our central major cat project, I'm proud to say there will be quite a few things coming off of that because of the repointing and the stuff that took place over the summer there. So next year's assessment is going to look a little different. But when you start talking about numbers, it's just a small bit in the big numbers there. That's another thing I wanted to note with the funding form, and Mr. Paul and I were talking this morning, and, basically that's the only change that you guys are seeing from last year's to this year's, and it's because of the price increases, is why those numbers will be changing. So, district enrollment capacity sheets, well, they change from year to year, so, and basically, I just wanted to note that right now, the state is, and Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the state's working on priority one items only, which is overcrowded. So any schools that are overcrowded right now are getting all the money, they don't have enough money right now to go around for that. So, I mean, our hope is if we keep putting it in, one of these years, they'll see something, they'll have some money available, so.
We can't give up.
No, we just got, and plus, I don't think, like I said, with that one example there, it doesn't hurt to keep letting them know where we're at, so when we do get things like that, we can say, hey, we told you, it's just we never got the funding for it. Any questions?
I have one. All right, thank you, Mr. Henry.
You're welcome.
This is an action item. Also recommended action is to approve the request for the certificate of necessity.
Jeff Benson, I make a motion that we approve the request for the for the certificate of necessity as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the request for the certificate of necessity. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.07. It's opportunity fund waiver. I'm gonna turn this over to Dr. Nicholas for a recap. We've been told about this before, but
Yeah, so with, the state has changed the way districts can use their opportunity funding. Unless you were to ask for a waiver, and basically what the waiver does, it allows us the flexibility to spend that as we have been spending that. So we are requesting approval of the district's opportunity fund waiver. This waiver will allow the district flexibility in allocating resources across the district to support low-income students and English language learners. We've advertised this in the paper that we're going for this waiver, but to make it official, we have to have a board vote.
it's been in the paper the last few weeks. Anybody have any questions on that? This is an action item. Recommended action is to approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented.
Mr. Marcus Schroeder, move that we approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented.
Jeff Benson, I second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the opportunity fund waiver as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.08 and 7.09 we will put together. If you will, Mrs. Brennan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So we are first going to start out with our discretionary revenue budget and expense. We went through 8.33% of the fiscal year. To date, we have expended or encumbered $1.6 million. This equates to 14.72% of funds available. But as normally during startup, you have a lot of the schools and also a lot of our different groups putting in purchase orders. So that is to be expended at this point of the year. Our local salaries are tracking at 10.56%, but July was a 3-pay month. This is one of 2 3-pay months that we'll experience in fiscal year 2023. So that is kind of adjusts and accounts for that. Moving on to our next sheet in terms of tax collection. So we have received both July and August tax revenue. To date, we have received $38,000 approximately. August is tracking a little bit lighter if you compare it to fiscal year 2022. And this is actually common across all of Sussex County. I've talked to some of my other business managers. And some people are seeing between $50,000 to almost $500,000 less in tax collection in August. So I guess I'm wondering, and I think we've had some conversations about, is it possibly a timing issue? Because the hope would be that in September, we start to see some of that August revenue that we are slightly behind on. This, once again, is our set aside fund. This reflects the $500,000 that the board voted on in June. That took the balance from approximately 1.6 to $2.1 million. And these funds will not be utilized until we've exhausted ESSER and other funds. And finally, this is our monthly revenue report. I've also captured in the state fund portion, the projected alternative reduction plan. Our alternative reduction number for fiscal year 2023 is $597,000 for 56 and 62 cents. I will be bringing forward a plan, in future months, once we go through unit count and where we see where everything fully shakes out. But in terms of our state fund, our budget right now is sitting at about $35.8 million. We've received about $32 million. The majority of the funds are in formula salaries, transportation, and utilization. In terms of local funds, the budget is at $11.9 million. And to date, we've received $65 million. And finally, federal funds, our budget is $3.8 million. And to date, we've received nothing. I hope to report more money in future months. Moving to our financial position report. So this is an exercise that we complete 3 times a year for the Department of Education. This is really looking at your income and expenditures from July 1st through October 15th. The goal of this is to look at your solvency prior to the bulk of your tax collection coming in, which tends to come in the October-November timeframe. So we've updated our local payroll expense. This is the monthly local payroll. It is now in the neighborhood of $780,000. This does include our negotiated increases. It includes the 2 3-pay months, takes into account EBR and any other local salary impacts. I would also point out that, not on that sheet, but okay, so this, when you look at this sheet over last year's sheet, our position as a whole is strengthened and, it's very solid at this point. Any questions?
Go ahead. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Our 7.08 financial report recommended action is to approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
Ms. Jeff Benson, I'll make a motion that we approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I second him.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.09 is the financial report. Excuse me, financial position report. The recommended action is to approve the financial position report as presented.
This is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the financial position report as presented.
This is Marcus Wright, a second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the financial position report as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 7.10, this is one we added. We needed to add calendar change. Dr. Nicholas, do you want me to do this?
This handle, wait, if you don't mind.
Who's that?
Mr. Cameron.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the original calendar that we brought for approval in March had an error on it as it comes to be. So originally we had a professional development day scheduled for September 26th. But I don't know how to tell, but I realized yesterday on the way to church, like on the election sign, that there's a primary on September 13th. Which there is now a law in place of a polling place for the school students not be present the day of the election. So it was an error on my part preparing for the calendar committee that I didn't have this beforehand. And it's not a reflection of the calendar committee. It's a reflection on me not having this prepared for them. So I apologize for the error. But in order to fix the situation, we're going to flip flop some days. So instead of professional development day being on September 26th, we would like to move the professional development day to September 13th, the day of the primary. And now September 26th will be a regular student day. It keeps all our hours the same. It's just a switch of the 2 days. Pending your approval, Ms. Anthony and I will work on getting the documentation of the departments, and I sent a communication out to all the directors and principals yesterday, making sure this would work. If there's anything online, luckily for us, September 26th, professional development is a building level day. And so we were able just to switch that building levels up to the 13th of September. And the one I was concerned about a lot more was Ms. Simmons, but she has her transportation, but really it's just being a switch. It's pretty simple. It's the same hours. It's just a switch of the days. So that is the reason for the change.
Seems to me that's the ideal fix for it. And- Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Everybody okay with it?
Cam, quick question. So will an announcement go, will something go out to the parents?
Yes, so it will be a whole plan here, luckily, and I maybe one of a few things work out. The hard calendar that we always do that goes out with the students, we were able to stop, we have to be able to say stop the press today, and we're able to get it changed, so that one will go out correctly. The ones that are approved, we will put new ones up on the website. We will also communicate it to the schools. They hand out usually a paper copy of the one pager. We'll have the corrected version, we'll put on Facebook. So we will work on getting it all communicated out starting tomorrow.
That's great, great. Any other questions? Sean? This is an action item. The recommended action is to approve the change in the 2022-2023 school calendar as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I move that we approve the change to the 2022-2023 school calendar as presented.
This is Marcus Ryder, second.
Been moved and second to approve the change to the 2022-2023 school calendar as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item is long-range agenda. Do we have one of those put up or not? Mr. Cannon?
I don't have that.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just read it. All right, August 17th through August the 23rd is professional development. August the 18th is Seaford Middle School 6th grade open house and barbecue. I have a question on that one. Do we have a time on that? Anybody? Get back to me.
I'll get back to you, sir.
August the 22nd, Blades Elementary in West Seaford back to school night is 4 to 6 p.m. On the same day is Fred Douglass Central Elementary and Central Elementary back to school night 5 to 7 p.m. On August 24th is the first day of school for students pre-K, kindergarten, 3rd, 6th, and 9th. August the 25th is the first day of school for all students. September the 1st is Seaford Middle School 7th and 8th grade back to school night. Again, my question is there a time on that one?
Or get on.
Okay. And the next item is September the 2nd. Schools are closed. 12-minute staff only will be here. And September the 5th, school is closed for Labor Day. We're back in the boardroom at 6 o'clock on September the 19th. And the homecoming is on September the 23rd. That's the homecoming game and parade. Any questions or any additions? Besides the 2 times. We'll get back to it. All right, next thing is I need a motion to move to executive session for personnel matters and legal update.
This is Marcus Ryder, move that we enter into executive session.
Kim Hopkins, a second.
Then move the second to move to executive session for personnel matters and legal updates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And the time is 7:47 p.m. Thank you so much.